The next strategy for improving classroom teaching and improving content is using teaching and planning strategies that support relationship building and that connect students to their values. Often, the difference between a positive school year and an extra challenging one depends on the quality of the relationships educators have with their students. Sometimes connecting students to their personal values, particularly around friendship, family, learning, and the environment, can empower students and help build trust and a sense of belonging in the classroom. Relationship building takes time, effort, and resilience. Here are some ways teachers can support relationship building and connect students with their values. Embrace small groups, talking circles, and collaborative learning that encourages dialogue as a replacement to lecturing. Storytelling, oral teaching, and conversation are a significant part of Native culture and education that can be harnessed to increase engagement. Plan lessons with tribal preferences in mind. Once trusting relationships with local tribes have been established with your school, ask for support and guidance as to what cultural norms and information tribes would like included in your curricula. Incorporate off-campus, outdoor, or land-based learning opportunities and case studies into lessons. This provides great opportunities to work with Native cultural representatives who may be able to introduce students to traditional ecological knowledge and Native values around land stewardship. This also can inspire students to reflect on their own relationships to the local ecosystem and reflect on their values in this area. Invite Native cultural leaders and elders into the classroom. Many Native cultures emphasize the importance of intergenerational learning and respect for elders. Elder involvement can increase student engagement in their learning material and connect students to their family values. Support Indigenous and Native values. Support the value of showing respect for one's elders. You can do this by creating opportunities for students to interview and engage with their elder family members and community members as a way of supporting their class content. Emphasize the importance of observation, trial and error, and mentorship. Creating low-stakes opportunities for students to experiment, fail, and learn from their experiences can lower barriers to success for students who may give up before trying new things in the classroom. Let's pause here to reflect using the following questions. Why does it matter that students are in touch with their personal values while at school? What benefits might there be to inviting community members and elders into the classroom? What benefit might there be to incorporating elders into assignments? How might creating a culture of trial and error where students are allowed to mess up help foster trust in the classroom? The next strategy is to include culturally relevant assignments into your work. Every student learns differently. Students have different interests, different ways of processing information, and different ways of connecting to class content. So, why are we still assessing all students the same way? The quickest answer is probably because it's faster to adopt a uniform assessment plan. There are only so many hours in the day, we get it. But when all students have the exact same assessment, it's possible that teachers are not gaining a full understanding of what students do or do not know about a subject. It's very possible that your students know more than you realize, but need different opportunities to express their knowledge than what is provided in class. Here are some ways to supplement assessments in ways that might connect better with Native students and also students from many other cultures. Provide arts-based and hands-on assessment options. Assessments like mind maps, digital storytelling, as well as culturally aligned options like beading, dancing, weaving, and oral assessments. These may not only give teachers better insights into what their students understand, but can actually unveil a deeper, more nuanced understanding of content than a simple Scantron or essay would. Embrace the Indigenous oral tradition. Can students verbally explain classroom content and phenomena? Can they use metaphors, poems, and stories to communicate the depth of their learning? Stories and oral tradition are a rich part of the Indigenous education of most cultures around the world. Utilizing this in the classroom can help students develop metaphoric and abstract thinking skills that can make subjects like math and science even more relatable. Embrace opportunities for intergenerational teaching and learning. Create opportunities for students to teach their community members about what they've learned. This increases students' sense of responsibility and again activates their values. Here, let's pause to reflect using the following questions. What are your most traditional assessments like? What barriers do these assessments pose for students? What kind of supplemental assessment might naturally work with your classroom content? How would your rubric need to be adjusted to make room for culturally relevant assessments? What ideas do you have for intergenerational teaching and learning? The last strategy for classroom teachers is to embrace contemporary Native existence. This is directly related to improving the visibility of Native people and bucks the stereotype that Native people no longer exist. When contemporary Native people are missing from school content, it can negatively impact the self-esteem, mental health, and education outcomes of Native students and families. So here are some ways you can highlight contemporary Native cultures and existence into the classroom. The first and foremost suggestion is to speak about Native people using the present tense. Unless referring to a historical time period, use the present tense to remind students that Native people are still alive and present in their communities. Teach students about contemporary locations, government structures, and projects of local Native peoples. Examples of this might include pair historical lessons about Native people with contemporary Native people and movements that exist today. Integrate traditional language words into the classroom. For example, when teaching geography, try to find the traditional name of different locations you introduce. When teaching about inequalities in the United States, examine the rates of inequality on contemporary tribal nations, reservations, and rancherias. Incorporating Native perspectives and Native-made resources that touch on historical and contemporary events. Like when teaching about the mission system, colonialism, the gold rush, Western expansion, and the civil rights movement, climate change, and more, include accounts from Native people themselves. Find sources that highlight both historical and current events from the Native lens. Incorporate important Native figures into all class subjects. Consider Native scientists, politicians, authors, historians, artists. There are Native people in all fields, and celebrating those voices is an important part of increasing visibility. To wrap up, let's reflect using the following questions. How can seeing contemporary Native people in class content impact students' understanding of Native culture? What contemporary Native movements interest you, and which would you like to know more about? What contemporary Native movements or figures might be integrated into your classroom?